What is up, guys? This is going to be the first look or quick take on the Virtue Spire IR. This video is brought to you by BlackFridayPaintball.com, where you can order the very same hopper in this video, the Virtue Spire IR. So as some of you may know, the Spire IR was just recently announced. I've actually known about this hopper for a few months now, as we were able to get a hands-on and feel the thing at the World Cup in Florida a few months ago. We were able to get some video of it, talk to Virtue all about the thing. At the time, they didn't want us to talk about it. They wanted us to wait until it was closer to an actual launch date. That day is now, and I can finally tell you guys about the Virtue Spire IR. At first glance, the Spire IR looks very, very similar to the Spire 200. You might not even know. At 20 feet, you might think it's the exact same hopper. It looks very, very similar to the previous version of the Spire. So what is the Spire IR? So with all this $100 hopper craze going on right now, Virtue didn't want to be left out, so they're coming out with the Spire IR to compete directly with the GI Sportz level or die Rotor LTR. Since that Spire IR is very similar to the Spire 200, let's just jump right into it and actually say what the differences are between the original Spire 200 and the IR. The biggest difference right away, if you're familiar with the Spires, is the new back shell. I think without question, the biggest problem with the original Spire was that back shell. It was just made out of brittle plastic, didn't hold up well over time. There were tabs that would break off. There was a little piece on the lid that would break off so the lid wouldn't stay closed. And they just crack. They're just spots that would crack and they just break often. It was a problem and definitely the weakest spot on the Spire. They are sticking with the same back lid locking mechanism that was on the original Spire, but other than that locking mechanism, the back shell is almost completely redesigned. They are still using that tab design to kind of help keep the back shell in place, but they're a lot shorter and they're not as tabby anymore. They're kind of just little angles, so they shouldn't break off really at all. I don't see them breaking. Like the original Spires did. The lid closure is also quite a bit different. So before it was kind of a press fit and kind of locked or clipped into place. Now you have this whole hook that goes over and holds down the lid. It looks like it's going to be much more durable and just stronger. Along with changing that lid closure, they also changed the way the lid attaches to the back shell. That lid attaches the same way that the Spire 3 lids do. So any of the speed feeds that are working on the Spire 3 can also be used on the Spire IR. In other words, the Virtue Crown 2 SF works on the Spire IR. So they've redesigned some things on that back shell that broke off or had issues with, but I think that the major change is really just the plastic is considerably more durable. It's flexible so it can take impact more, and just more robust and more rugged than the previous plastic was. That back shell on the original Spire I think was awful. It cracked all the time. Just not good. I didn't like it at all. In all versions of the Spire, whether it was a Spire 200, 260, or 3, there's been a gyroscope in the front of the nose that actually detected if the gun was kicking or shooting and then decided to spin. But for the Spire IR, you may have guessed it, it uses IR, or infrared. Infrared beams have been used on paintball guns for a long time. They're what all these guns are using for eyes, and hoppers have been using to detect paintballs for a very long time. I personally don't know if this matters. I don't think you're going to notice a performance difference between that gyroscope style or eye version. It's just cheaper for Virtue to actually make the eye one. Maybe it's not as sensitive or responsive, but I think for the end user, when you guys are actually out playing paintball, you're never going to notice. It's not going to be that big of a difference. The components are just less expensive, so Virtue can just keep the cost down on the hoppers. So switching over to that break beam eye system rather than the gyroscopes is really just keep costs down. Those are really the two changes. The back shell has been redesigned and more durable, and it uses eyes instead of that gyroscope. Everything else is pretty much the same. You still take out the tray the same way, still uses the spring ramp, still uses that Spire cone thingy that's in the inside. There are going to be two prices for these things, $100 and $110. So black you can get for $100, $110 will get you blue, red, gray, or olive. Everybody go show love to BlackFridayPaintball.com. They helped sponsor this video and made this whole thing possible. So go pre-order your Spire IR from a link in the description of this video.